on Facebook, and then we'll get started. Okay, give me a minute. We will be started in a minute. All right, there it is. We're live now on Facebook. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for tuning into this installment of the 19 Report, coming to you live from Manning, South Carolina. This is Jamil Salib Zamir. I sincerely thank you, and I thank you for your patience on yesterday. We were supposed to be live at Sunday at 6 o'clock, but I had some issues in the community, and we had to take care of that, and it's not necessarily taken care of yet, but I want to go ahead and start with this very timely topic, because it is that serious that we begin the topic talking about black people and mental illness, because it is taboo. This is not to say that other groups of people do not suffer from mental illness. Of course they do. Of course they do. We all suffer from mental illnesses in every different race of people. But as I always start with all of my commentaries, it is a known fact that other groups have more support. And on top of that, mental illness has become taboo. It's always been taboo in the black community. And it's something we have to talk about, because we've lost so many people to mental illness. And we're going to lose so many people to mental illness. And it's not just suicide that we're going to lose them to. We're losing them to the street. We're losing them to a loss of identity. So we're going to start this series. And I didn't plan for it to be a series, but it will have to be one. Today, we're going to talk about mental illness and identity disturbance. Very important topic. I hope that you will begin to, and listen, if I come off a little arrogant, I don't know how to apologize for that, but that's how I have to be. If I come off as if though I'm a know-it-all, that's not how I intend to come off. What I have been blessed to do by God's permission is to get the ball rolling, to jumpstart issues and subjects that other people can join into. And by joining in, you don't say, well, see, he was wrong on that, and he was wrong on that. You join in by connecting your information to the information that's already out there. Because the biggest issue, and we're going to talk about this for the entire month of February, which has been designated as Black History Month, and I know we're going to say, well, I'm black every day of the week. Fine. But our ancestors fought and were allotted this time. It was Black History Week. Now it's Black History Month, with the knowledge that we would not stay focused for 30 days or 28 days or 20 days on our own selves, because we are lost in what is called identity disturbance. We want to be where everything seems to be, appears to be, so comfortable that we will never have a problem in life. And unfortunately, in thinking that way, people have to suffer and die so that we will see that it's not that easy. The young lady who was from Colombia and jumped out of the building in New York and committed suicide, so we know this far. Had her beautiful lady, I think she was a lawyer, she won beauty pageants, it would seem as if though her life was all together, but something was disturbing her mentally. Rather, it was a loss of a boyfriend, a husband, or a girlfriend. Something disturbed her. We're going to go in so deep today. I hope that we're ready for this. This is Jamil Salib Zamir. We're broadcasting live on Instagram. We're broadcasting live on Facebook and on YouTube. I have my Cash App up. That is $19 promotions. If you find the information to be beneficial, that you can share it and ask for donations for the broadcast as well. We're going to need more podcasting equipment. We're going to need better streaming equipment to stream live events. Nothing has changed. We've always been in the community for over 30 years now, and that's where we will stay until God takes us away. So I thank you for tuning in. Jamil Salib Zamir, we got a very, very good show for you. If you can stay on with us for about an hour, we're going to do the intro, then we will be right back. Instagram, stay tuned. Thank you so very much for tuning in to this month installment of the 19 Report. I am your host, Brother Johnny.
Johnny. I walked a thin line between right and wrong. Took my fears to God, then I wrote this song. The spirit kept calling, so I answered the phone. And then I manned up and got some backbone. My mind resonates at a much higher tone. Solid foundation, empire zone. 3 mountains, I'm in one, right to left counted, 9 and then 1, left to right switch it, 1 and then 9, west to east, south to north, a thin line. I know Christ exists, cause his mercy allows me a chance to stand 3 on a square. Yeah, we in there. This is Brother Johnny of Groove 19 Promotions.
All right, Jamil Salib Zamir, Brother Johnny, Groove 19 Promotions, Manning, South Carolina. Sincerely thanking everyone for tuning in. This is part 1. Please pay close attention to the subject matter. It is, I'm quite sure you've never heard of it before, but we're going to introduce you to some things today. It is, tomorrow will be Black History Month. In a few more hours, we will start the ball rolling with all of the Black History posts and what you didn't know about Black history. But the thing about history is that history is supposed to improve the present. And history is supposed to set a precedent for the future. What we're doing is just posting up things that happened, and we're not building on those things that have happened. Although we have some great people out there who are building on those things, the majority of us have lost our way and have lost our identity and have lost our purpose in lives, because I can guarantee you that our mothers and fathers did not raise us to be crooks, to be scammers, to be crooked politicians, to be charlatans in the church. They didn't raise us as males to be females. They didn't raise us as females to be males. I guarantee you that. Now, you have some confused parents who are doing some confusing things in this day and time, but there is a reason for that. So I want to go, first of all, as always, into biblical scripture. And I want to say to all of the Muslim family, I am a Muslim too. And I know for you all, Islam is just Islam and you don't have to do anything else. But you weren't given my assignment. My assignment is to take the book that our people are accustomed to take the book that our people are slave to, and get the information out of that book, and share the information out of that book that coincides with the Quran and other books, so that we can get a broader understanding of our purpose, because we lost our purpose and we lost our identity. As the beginning of Black History Month, what happened to us in what is called Africa now? We lost our identity. Why did God allow us to go into slavery? Because one group thought that they were better than the other group. So what the European did is came in a collective manner in their evil. And their evil collectively was more powerful than our intentions for good separately. So black folks sold black folks into slavery. Black folks caught black folks and sent them on the ships into slavery in Ghana and in other places. Black folks sell each other out today. Black folks lost their identity. So black folks that put us in this condition, us, can also get us out of the condition. But let me tell you, it is a long and winding road. And most of us, although we can kill, pull triggers, and scam and scheme and lie to people in the name of God, and lie to people in the name of politics, crooked police officers, crooked everything. Although we can do all of that, we cannot face our own demons. So we're going into the subject today of identity disturbance. And this is for all of our people. And we're starting part 1. But I want to read this first from 12 in Ephesians 6. I think we're in Ephesians 6. Ephesians 6 of the King James Version of the Bible. You can read all of it for yourself, but I want to get right to this. 11 and 12. Says, put on the whole armor of God that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. Why are the actions of devil wild? Because when you reverse the word devil, it is lived. And the one thing that our people say, I want to live my life. I just want to live. So whoever that is presented to you, put in front of you, that appear to be living their life with no regrets and only happiness, you want to be that. But that's not who you are. So what Satan does and continues to do is the same thing that the European did when he came to Africa. He came with promises, lies, and wealth and things that we didn't have at the time. And we always want to be the first one to get it. And once we get it, we flaunt it like we're living our best life. Everything is live, live, live. But most of the time it's in rebellion to your nature. So we rebelled against our nature. This is Black History Month. We're talking about mental illness. In rebelling against our nature, we were able to be broken apart into different groups. And once you fragment a thing, you can control it. So the book says, put on the whole, all of it, armor of God, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. And in the book of Genesis, the devil told Adam and Eve, according to the Bible, God doesn't want you to live. That's why he don't want you to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. He don't want you to live. Pay attention. Put on the whole armor of God that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. This ain't just religious talk that I'm giving you. This is street knowledge. This is OG talk, if that's what y'all want to call it. This is worshipful master talk. This is the hierarchy talk. This is God's knowledge. This is standing on the seven. This is traveling through the desert. This is getting standing on the square. This is the cornerstone. This is it. It's no secret. The only reason it's a secret is that it was put in a book and we don't like to read. We don't like to compare notes. We just like to see one thing and say that has got to be the truth. So, put on the full armor of God that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. Listen, 12. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood. This is my point. We're trying to teach children who are no longer children. They come out demonic. That's why they take on the title of demon. And the demons that you think are just gang members are not. Parents are demons. Politicians are demons. Presidents are demons. Doctors are demons. Preachers are demons. Children are demonic. So it says, we wrestle not against flesh and blood. You're looking at a person, an image of what appears to be a person, but it is no longer a person. You're wrestling against flesh and blood. It says we wrestle not against it. And that's why when we try to teach truth, truth is rejected because what we're feeling feels so good that we don't want truth, so we justify other than truth. I'm not talking about man's law. I'm talking about universal truth. We reject it. Okay, so it says, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. See, spirituality can be wicked. And people come to you trained by Satan how to teach religion. So when they teach it based on the books and the information that they are given, be careful. Learn how to put on the full armor of God that you and I may be able to look into things for ourselves. Because the trick of Satan is and will always be that because we were too weak to exit his world, we joined into his world. And we made joy and excuses out of things that made us feel like we were alive, which is a lie. Let's get into the subject matter. I'm going to play a clip real quick. And then I'm I'm going to go into the subject matter. This is part one. What is identity disturbance? This is what our children are going through in this day and time. It's an identity disturbance. And unfortunately, we are not going to sit and listen to something of value, especially coming from someone we know. Unfortunately. So the reason I'm on the internet is in hopes that these messages will reach people in other places that will see the value in what God has given me. Because sometimes your family don't see it. Your wives, your husband, your children, they see you suffer, they don't see it. There is no prophet or messenger of God that didn't have to suffer. And so in that suffering, we break apart. And in breaking apart, we destroy good. So we're going into the subject matter. I want to play this real quickly for you. We're talking about mental illness. You heard of the young lady that killed herself allegedly in New York, had a very good life. We lost so many young black boys here in Manning, South Carolina from suicide. One was recently found hanging in the woods. I don't want to talk about that subject because I was hoping to get some information on it or maybe to get to talk to the parents. But again, suicide is so taboo in the black community. We act as if though we did an excellent job with raising our children, and we didn't. We didn't because we didn't listen to their gripes, their pain, their suffering. So in this commentary, I'm going to play about not today, but in one of the episodes, a clip of a young boy who was doing drugs since he was 7 years old because he was mentally ill. And he contemplated suicide. So we're going to talk about these things, but this is mainly for Manning, South Carolina. Again, to my European, Caucasian, blue-eyed brothers and sisters, if that's what you want to be called, I got no problem with that. As long as we're on the same path, we tight. But I need you to understand that our struggle, the black struggle, is not the same as yours. Never has been, never will be. I don't care how many white and black couples marry. I don't care how many mixed children come into the world. It does not matter. There is no struggle less documented, but more painful and more mentally disturbing than the struggle of the black man and woman in America. None. So let's get into this real quickly. This is Pandemic Leads to Rise in Mental Health Issues. Let's listen.
Alarming rate. But thankfully, there's a new tool coming that many believe will save millions and get them the help they need. For suicide prevention advocate Tanja Miles, her drive to help people goes beyond the surface.
This is personal to me. I'm a two-time suicide survivor. I've been in recovery for over 32 years.
A recent study shows there's a rise in suicides among Black Americans and other people of color, and the pandemic has only made it worse. For Black men, the numbers are even more terrifying. African American boys between the ages of 5 and 12 are more likely to die by suicide than any other age group. Nationwide, suicides among Black children under 18 are up 71% in the past decade. Leisha Best is the Louisiana director for RI International. She says conversations about mental health in the Black community was always considered taboo for years.
When we talk about stigma, I think that is like the biggest thing for us. It's always like, we don't want anybody to know what's going on in our household.
Miles says these talks must start young if you want to see the trend change.
A lot of times, African-American men, you guys are told you need to suck it up. You cannot show your feelings and you can't cry. And that's not healthy for anyone. And so we have to change that. We have to change that when we're talking to our babies, our young boys, that it's okay to feel. You're going to be okay.
Miles says it can be hard to bring up the topic of suicide if you think someone needs help. Both she and Beth say it's about your approach.
It's always not about just, do you feel like hurting yourself right now? Sometimes as we continue to talk, then people are opening up and saying like, I've had thoughts before. Sometimes I feel like this when this happens. So it's really just about how you have the conversation.
The National Suicide Hotline is available 24/7, but soon it will be even easier to dial. By July 2022, every state will designate 988 as a number people can call and speak to a professional. The 3-digit hotline isn't available here just yet, but experts say it will be a game changer.
Someone's on the other line and they know the resources, they know where to go. So 988 is going to be very important.
Both Miles and Beth say one death is too many, But as long as we have open talks, they can continue to save lives.
We need to let our brothers know that, you know what, you're not alone. There's hope, there's help, and it's okay to reach out. It doesn't make you less of a man. It doesn't make you weak. Matter of fact, it makes you stronger.
We will have a full list of suicide prevention resources attached to this story on our 9 News app. Liz?
Okay, we're back. That was a clip. I had to play it. Again, I want to read some of the statistics. 71%. I'm sorry. 71% of black youth between the ages of 5 and 12 died by suicide. That rate has risen 71% over the last decade. That rate has risen over 71% over the last decade. We are in a suicide crisis. We are at a state where we must begin to address these issues. I want to say this at the outstart also. The increase in drug abuse and the increase in violence and group violence and people joining on to different groups, all of this can be attributed to identity disturbance, identity crisis, and mental illness. Our children were not raised, our children were not allowed to be born to us, to become gangbangers, to become crooked politicians, to become selfish people. We were all on every level. That's selfishness. I want to do what I want to do, regardless as to what you want to do. On every level, that's selfishness. And that divides the community, that divides the family, that divides the intentions of God's purpose. So many of us lose our purpose. And in losing our purpose, we lose our identity. And in losing our identity, we become mentally disturbed. Identity disturbance is a gateway to mental illness, bipolar disorder. So you're talking about from the age of 5 to 12, people introducing to you what they think you should be. And you looking at social media, and scientists have proven that sites like Facebook and TikTok and Instagram creates an unrealistic goal for you to set for yourself and myself. And when we don't reach those goals, we will pretend for a while, like you have your young boys out here. Yes, they can steal a gun. Yes, they can buy a gun. Yes, but you're not LA. Not by a long shot. You're not Chicago. That is decades, centuries of murder and killing. But you want to fast track to be a killer because you see it on the internet. You want to jump past getting shot at yourself and losing loved ones yourself and just be the one doing all the shooting. That is identity disturbance. That creates PTSD. The same thing with our women, unfortunately, who lost themselves in trying to get big bottoms, big breasts, big eyelashes. You're lost. That's not you. What were you prior to all of these other accessories that are being offered now? Why are these things changing you or making you change yourself? What happens to a black man or woman mentally when they achieve a little more than the next black man or woman? Why do you become so arrogant? The same mindset that got us enslaved. And the reason we are still being mistreated, the reason we were enslaved, is because we are still an arrogant people and unwilling to work together for our purpose. So we adopt other people's purposes and intentions and identities and then ask those people to respect us. They can't. How can you respect a person who don't know who they are? You can't. So let's get into this. We abandon our purposes in life for what appears to be what we want. And people are hired to keep us busy in desiring to be them and not ourselves. That's why 50 Cent and Jay-Z and Kanye West, that's why music artists are constantly in the news. You don't think we have any astrophysicists black? Yes. You don't think we have any genetic scientists black? Of course. You don't think we have any black lawyers, attorneys? Of course. Black school teachers who are dedicated to their jobs and making changes, but they don't get the top spot. The only people that get the top spot are entertainers. So all of our children are abandoning their purpose for entertainment. My son is doing it. He was a genius up here. He wanted to be an engineer. Now, all of a sudden, he wants to do music. Music is a wonderful thing. It is a connection, but music can also be demonic. That's what Satan used to encapsulate us. This Black History Month, we're talking about Black mental illness, not to exclude everyone else's. All mental illness matters. Can I say that? I'm gonna write that down. All mental illness matters, because I don't want you all to think that this is just a Black thing, but it is. We're in trouble, Black people. So let's get into this thing. What is identity disturbance? And I'm coming out of Very Well Minds. You can look that up, Very Well Minds. I had never heard of identity disturbance, but as I was preparing myself to start this mental illness series, as I was sitting in my room, identity crisis came into my mind. And as I was looking up identity crisis, I looked up identity crisis and mental illness. And when I looked up that, it showed me identity disturbance. I never heard of it before. I read the article. Now I want to give it to you. All praise is due to Allah, God, by whatever name you call him. Dog, shoe, foot, ankle, knee, grass, Jesus. That's your business. But all praise is due to something bigger than ourselves. This is not a game. The people who you think are well are not well. They're confused, but they're going to make happiness in the world that they feel they can't get out of. I am not well. My life in my mind was planned out to be much better than what it is. But this is where I am. So I try to keep my identity wherever I go. I don't switch sides. Let me ask you, young fellas, something. Y'all notice how your buddies are switching sides on this gang thing? 1 minute they this and then that, and then they claim this. Whoever is the toughest at the time is where they go. Because they suffer from identity disturbance. Let's read it. Identity disturbance is a term used to describe incoherence or inconsistency in a person's sense of identity. This could mean that a person's goal, beliefs, and actions are constantly changing. So anybody that you know, 1 minute y'all be a rapper. No, man, I'm going into selling. I'm selling drugs. Nah, nigga, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna be a producer. Nah, nigga, I'm gonna sell clothes. Nah, nigga, I'm selling guns. Nah. The only thing that keeps us locked into a position is the amount of money it pays. You think every politician wants to be a politician? They sloppily go over that job. You think every cop wants to be a genuine, sincere police officer? Give them a chance to make some money and see how crooked they come. Some are great. They mean what they do. You think every person that takes pictures understands photography? Every lawyer, every doctor? It's the paycheck. But their identity is disturbed. I'm going to read it again. Identity disturbance is a term used to describe incoherence or inconsistency in a person's sense of identity. So we got to start working on asking our young people, who are you? Not what are you? Not what set you claim? Not what's your occupation? Not what you desire out of life? Who are you? A better answer would be, I don't know who I am. I'm trying to find myself. But in losing our identity, and identity disturbance is a mental illness that's going to cause us either to kill somebody trying to prove a point or kill ourselves trying to prove a point. And there is such thing as slow suicide. So most of our people my age and younger have been engaging in slow suicide all their lives. Drinking. That's slow suicide. You can't tell me that every element of marijuana is good. I take prescription medication. Every element of prescription medication is not good. Some of it is killing me. Slow suicide, mental disturbance. Identity disturbance is a term to describe incoherency or inconsistency in a person's sense of identity. Our children are suffering through identity crisis. For God's sakes, adults are suffering through identity crisis. That's why they're in their first, second, and third childhood. We're talking about black mental illness, but mental illness, all mental illness matters. This could mean that a person's goal, beliefs, and actions are constantly changing. It could also be that the person takes on personality traits of people around them as they struggle to have and maintain their own identity. Why did all of the people in Manning start doing drill rap when they didn't know anything about drill rap? When I was coming up, we started dressing like Michael Jackson when he was popular. Some of us dressed like Prince. Some of these dudes that your daddy right now had curly kits and makeup on their face trying to look like Prince. Some of them wore leather pants like Eddie Murphy. They act like they don't know. I started breakdancing. I started rapping because rap came out of New York City and breakdancing came out of New York City. We identify with things because we don't know who we are. So the dangers of Manning, South Carolina is no one knows who they are. We're chasing after positions of power and prestige, but we don't know who we are. So that causes an identity disturbance. We're talking about mental illness. We're talking about why our children are so hyped up on drugs from the age 7, 5, 7. They're in the weed. They're into lean. They're into mollies. They're into fentanyl because they can't find out who they are. We are constantly, at 52 years old, I am still searching, asking, who am I? That's what Satan did to us. He discombobulated our thinking. He scrambled and defragmented our united sense of God and gave us different gods, different thoughts, different desires, and none of them belong to us. That's why we say I'm an AK, I'm a Q, I'm a Blood, I'm a Crip, I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican. All identity disturbance. Because we are not the originators of any of those things. We adopted those things. Even in Masonry, we adopted those things. Prince Hall Masons. Do you understand what I'm saying? So we take our power from saying, I am better than you. And as long as we think we are better than, we can never unify. So when the idea of being better is no longer in our minds, we go into depression. I ain't doing nothing with my life. I ain't moved since I ain't did nothing. I ain't nobody. And when you can't come out of that depression, suicide is easy. Whether it's slow or fast, it's easy. You don't fear death because you have no respect for life. Anyone that understands that life is all you got, that you can't spend no money, you can't shoot no guns, you can't put no money on your arm, you can't drink no lean or smoke no weed if you're not alive. The identity disturbance in our ministers caused them to say God the way the script is written for them. You can't go outside of this idea of God. So they're feeding each generation's lies about our God, lies about our existence. And they're leaving out important elements that will let us know who we are. Parents are doing it, lying to the children. It's causing mental illness. This is Jamil Salib Zamir. And the most difficult thing for a person who is mentally ill to do is to face reality. So that's why we suffer from what is called delusions of grandeur. You can't handle conversation like this too much. It's hard for me to talk about it, but I'm going to talk about it. The The Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorder describes identity disturbance as a markedly and persistently unstable self-image or sense of self, and notes it is one of the key symptoms of borderline personality disorder. Now, I want to click on this because I want to give a definition of what borderline personality disorder is, if it will allow it, and don't kick me out too far from where I am. Borderline personality disorder. What is borderline personality disorder? Borderline personality disorder is a serious psychological condition that is characterized by unstable moods and emotions, relationships, and behavior. It's one of severely personality disorder recognized by the American Psychiatric Association. Personality disorder, a psychological condition that begins in adolescence or early adulthood. You hear me? Adolescence or early adulthood, continues over many years, and when left untreated can cause a great deal of distress. Thankful to the right treatment targeted for borderline personality disorder, it can be helped significantly. Now, let me try to get back, because I'm reading this stuff verbatim and including in what I need to include in. So what is happening to our children? They can't keep one thought. 1 minute they saying, I'm happy to be alive. I wish I was dead. Man, you my best friend. Nigga, I don't like you. And this goes on. I talked with a gentleman today that told me, he said, man, don't be misled about these upper echelon black folk in Manning. He said, none of them like each other. They don't even like themselves. He said if no money was involved, they wouldn't deal with each other. This is why we cannot grow as a people, because we suffer from mental illness. Our being captured into slavery and brought to this country was all because of mental illness. And in separating ourselves from the God who created us means that we are mentally ill. So the scripture says we war not against flesh and blood. You looking to cure somebody of something that you can't. You trying to pray it away. You cannot pray away mental illness. You cannot pray away suicidal thoughts. You can't pray away illness. When it's your time to die, you're going to die. Now, understanding identity. Identity is often thought of as your, and we're almost done. Identity is often thought of as your overarching sense and view of yourself. A stable sense of identity means being able to see yourself. Listen to this now. Being able to see yourself as the same person in the past, in the present, and in the future. Not that you're in the same condition, but no matter what condition, whether you go from rich to poor, poor to rich, rich to middle class to wealthy, walking to paralyzed, paralyzed to blind, blind to deaf, deaf to dumb, whatever it is, you can see yourself as, I'm still Jamil. I'm still who I am. I still want to tell the truth. I still want to share information. In the confusing state personally that I'm in for the last 2 weeks or so, I don't want to stop doing what I'm doing. I don't want to stop talking about truth. I don't want to stop trying to break the chains of ignorance that we lost ourselves trying to be something other than ourselves. So we have to understand our identity. Identity disturbance, the mental illness that is taking down our young people, that scientists understood what they were doing when they introduced it to us. Make them lose their identity. And if they try to hold on to it, beat them till they give it up. That's what the Kunta Kinte and Toby thing was all about. He kept saying, I'm Kunta, you Toby, I'm Kunta. And he beat him until he gave up his identity, until his identity became disturbed. So in 2022, as the black man constantly devolves into savagery, none of us want to be identified as it. And if we identify ourselves as black, we're trying to identify ourselves as something bigger than those beneath us. Identity is often thought of as an overarching sense and view of yourself. A stable sense of identity means being able to see yourself as the same person in the past, in the present, and in the future. In addition, a stable sense of self requires the ability to view yourself in the same way, despite the fact that something you may have, despite the fact that something you may be, that sometimes you may behave in contradictory ways. I got to read that again because that's all of us. I was just having a conversation with my wife about that because I did something that was out of my character. And then I explained to her why I did it. And I said, you should know that I am who I am. And if I did it, it was for a reason. So knowing who you are, a stable sense of self requires the ability to view yourself in the same way, despite the fact that sometimes you may behave in contradictory ways. I was hanging out with some guys one day and they were drinking and we were having a conversation and it was a very enlightening conversation. They started passing around the drink. And I knew that if I did not take a drink, that they would no longer listen to what I was saying. So when it came my turn, I'm going to take a little bit, man. I don't like getting drunk. Yeah, I feel you, Unc. I feel you. Took a little sip. Hey, we good. You prove that you with us. Now, if somebody from the other side, the holy folks had seen that, see that nigga there? He didn't want to be talking all that God stuff over there drinking with them drunk niggas. I don't see drunk niggas. I see my brothers and us trying to better ourselves. You don't see much black men doing things for black men. Women are always having women empowerment sessions. Our empowerment sessions are usually on the corner. So when you know who you are and you have a stable sense of self, requires the ability to view yourself in the same way, despite the fact that sometimes you may behave in contradictory ways. A peaceful person has a warrior in them. And if you see that peaceful person have to go to war, you will not think that that is the same person, but that's them. But something had to come out of them to protect themselves. Identity is quite broad, quite broad, and includes, and this is the end for today, and it includes many aspects of the self. Your sense of self or identity is thought to include the following elements. Listen to these: your beliefs and attitudes, your perception of your abilities, your ways of behaving even as these change, your personality and temperament, your opinions, the social roles you play. Identity can be thought of as your self-definition. It's the glue that holds together all of these diverse aspects of yourself. Our children are falling apart because they have these elements, but they're fragmented. And because most of them grow up in a home with no father, and unfortunately, the mother thinks that the boy, even though he's 1 and 2, that's my little man. That's my little protector. So he's automatically thinking he has to take on a role. Men don't cry. What you crying for? Men don't cry. What, you a punk? They lose their identity early in life because the mother is hurt, really, that the man she gave herself to and had babies from is no longer in the picture. So she has to psychologically disturb herself and say, I don't need him. Not realizing that although you shun the man, a part of the man is in your child. So the identity of the man who cheated on you, left you out in the cold, abused you, part of that is in that child. And if we don't address these issues, you don't make a person unafraid by telling them men don't be afraid. You can't make a child stop crying internally because you tell them men don't cry. Young boys, older boys at 20 and 25 cling on to their mama because they have a way out. And once they realize they have no identity, here comes the slow suicide. See, in LA and Chicago and places like that, these young people walk down the street and are forced either to get down or lay down. In South Carolina, we created that condition. That's not the same thing. We are mimicking conditions of other places that we have never survived in before. I mimicked New York life as a teen because I was fascinated by New York life. But as an adult, I lived in New York. And while living in New York, everybody was the same, so I didn't have to act New York. It was New York. We identify with gangs and violence, not knowing all of the elements that come with that. We identify with graduating from college and becoming successful, not knowing all the elements that come with that. So at the peak of our success, we turn around and realize after all of this, I'm not happy. But I can't go back. So the young lady in New York, dead. Young man in South Carolina, dead. Officers in Florida are killing themselves. Some of them are forced to engage in crooked policing. It's called the thin blue line. You cross it, you die. It's no different than gangs. Many officers want to be officers. They want to do right by the community and the people and work their job and go home. But other ones are different. So they're committing suicide and slow suicide. We must find our identity so that our identity will no longer be disturbed and we will no longer have to look outside of ourselves to identify who we are. Don't you understand that's what all of this is about, what's happening in Clarendon County right now, all these gangs? They're trying to click on to the toughest thing that they see on YouTube. That's why they're so dangerous. They're unpredictable. As DMX says, you all over the place with it. What are you doing? They don't even know. All they know, if it's something I disagree with, shoot it. That's why they're so dangerous. Mental illness. Crip Mac, you 5 me, I'm 5 on 5'5". I respect Crip Mac because Crip Mac admits that he has mental illness. He has a whole video out about it. That he suffers from bipolar disorder. He admits it and talks about it. And he says in the video, he tried marijuana, but that didn't fix it. So once our children try all of the drugs of choice and they are still confused as to their identity, death is next, or jail. It's not just joining a gang and killing, it's mental disturbance. These children are sick and parents are sick because after all the dirt that their children do, and many of them kick their children out of the house. But when it comes time to talk about he was a good boy, he ain't did nothing to nobody, you a liar. You're disturbed. Why identity is important, and we're closing. Having a sense of identity serves many different functions. We're talking about mental illness in the black community. All mental illness matters, but we're talking about in the black community. We're talking about among a people who are being used by every other race of people. Chinese use us. Hindus use us. Mexicans use us. White folks used us. And black folks who are trying to be white use us. Do you know that black people had slaves and treated their slaves worse than some whites? I'm going to go off script tomorrow. And I'm going to talk about a black man from South Carolina that got rich from slavery because he hung around white people and learned how to be a slave master and had slaves and mistreated them till the day he died. And even white folks said that man treated his slave worse than we ever did. I'm going to try to do that tomorrow for Black History Month as we're talking about mental illness. Why identity is important. Having a sense of identity serves many different functions. A strong identity can help you adapt to changes. While the world around you is constantly changing, if you have a strong sense of self, you essentially have an anchor to hold you while you adapt. Without that anchor, change can feel chaotic and even terrifying. Most of these young boys are terrified. So they cling on to something that looks tougher than them. Same thing with young girls. I want to make it clear. I will have an episode on suicide among women, Black women. So when we get afraid, we join onto something that looks like a big brother or big sister. And it may be not for us. In addition, having a strong identity allows you to develop self-esteem. Without knowing who you are, how can you develop a sense that you are worthwhile and deserving of respect? Then it has an article talking about coping with low self-esteem in bipolar disorder. We're going to stop right there. In closing, identity disturbance is sometimes called identity diffusion. This refers to difficulty determining who you are in relations to other people. Some people with bipolar disorder may describe this as having difficulties understanding where they end and where the other person begins. People with bipolar disorder often report that they have no idea who they are or what they believe in. Sometimes they report that they simply feel non-existence. How easy is it to kill yourself if you don't feel like you exist? Every morning you wake up, you go to work for somebody else, you pay bills to try to be happy. You go to church to worship something to try to be happy. But you never find your identity in these things. You vote. Voting's supposed to make you happy. Degree's supposed to make you happy. Church's supposed to make you happy. Friends supposed to make you happy. But if you have to be something other than yourself to have friends, then you cannot be happy. So people are saying they simply feel non-existence. Others even say that they are almost like a chameleon in terms of identity. They change who they are depending on their circumstances and what they think others want from them. And that is called, oh my gosh. I can't think of the name of it, but we all do it. We all get lost in characters. And some of us pretend to be hardcore killers and gangsters, and we got to be characters, politicians, preachers, ministers, in all genres. But I'm talking about our young people. For example, you might find yourself being the life of the party at social events, but having a somber and serious demeanor at work functions. Of course, everyone changes their behavior to some degree in different contexts, but in bipolar disorder, this shift is much more profound. Those experiences identity disturbances likely experience inconsistent beliefs and behavior. I see y'all switch beliefs almost every day on social media. I'm a Muslim. I'm woke. I'm a Christian. I'm a gangster. I'm a thug. I'm a rapper. I'm this. I don't believe in nothing. I don't care about nothing. I love people. Just constantly proving that we are bipolar. And we are. Everyone changes their behavior to some degree in different contexts, but in bipolar disorder, this shift is much more profound. Those experiencing identity disturbances likely experience inconsistent beliefs and behaviors. They may also tend to over-identify with groups or roles over their individual identity. They may also tend to over-identify with groups or roles over their individual identity. What are you? I'm a Crip, I'm a Blood, I'm this, I'm that. You identify with the group because you have no personal identity. Let me tell you something. It's a lot of these dudes that walk around here and they hardcore killers when they with the whole group. But you catch them by themselves and they totally different. The ones who aren't are about it. That's just what it is. They done set their mind, this is what I'm about. That don't mean that's who they are. But they got to prove that I'm about this life. Mental illness. We're losing young people. We're losing potential doctors, lawyers, scientists. Everybody lost their identity. Through identity disturbance, all our children want to be is gangsters, rappers, musicians, entertainers. They gave up their life. One of my sons gave up his life in college to do something else. Identity disturbance. He got disturbed and he panicked. Since all my partners doing this, I'm going to do that. Now your partners look like bums. And you trying to maintain in a world that you ain't supposed to be there. But it's yours now. Now you got to eat it. So you adapt. But you're miserable. Our women are doing it. Our women are whoring themselves out and then expect to have a child who is sophisticated. Well, what's going to happen when your 13, 14, 15-year-old son see your OnlyFans page where you fingering your own vagina? What's going to happen when he see you bend over on a video letting 3 and 4 guys screw you because you're trying to make money? What's that going to do to him? In closing, I said that before, but we really are closing this time. I'm going to have to bookmark this. I'm going to bookmark it right now. Many people with identity disturbance and bipolar disorder say that in addition to changing behavior, their thoughts and feelings change to match the current situation. For example, they might frequently change their minds about the following. They change their minds about their career. They change their minds about friendship. They change their minds about aspiration. They change their minds about their opinions and belief. They change their minds about other major life decisions. As a result, many people with bipolar disorder struggle to set up and maintain healthy personal boundaries and have difficulties in their interpersonal and intimate relationships. Ladies that don't need no man, it ain't just the man. It's you too. They may also have trouble committing to values, committing to goals, and in this generation, committing to jobs. In addition to those with identity disturbance, find that their mood change frequently and unpredictably. We're going to stop right there. And we'll come for the rest later. But I sincerely thank all of you for tuning into this installment of the 19 Report. We are starting a mini-series again on mental health in the black community and among black people and suicide. We're committing suicide because we are dissatisfied with who we chose to be. And we chose to be these different people because of identity disturbance. It's not who we are. Of course you switch jobs and desires. But when it is a constant switch, there is a problem. That is considered as being bipolar. They put a title to everything. But all of these illnesses comes with taking a person out of their world and forcing them to adapt in a new world. The black man had to adapt to white people's ideology or die. And death was not pleasant. Death was painful. And seeing our children die, our children being taken away, our mothers die, our fathers die, horrific death because he stood up as a man, so he had to be broken. To have a man sleep with his mama to produce, a child sleep with their mama to produce babies, psychologically horrible. Sleep with your sister. And now because we cannot get out of that thought, we just embrace it. So now you see sisters and brothers on porn movies together. Mamas and sons. Kodak Black touches mama behind, sexually. We don't know where to stop. We are suffering from identity crisis. So the best thing we can be is demonic. So to say it's demon and demon time is easy. I just will be whatever I want to be whenever I want to be it. no matter who it harms, no matter who gets upset. I'll do what I want to do when I want to do it. That is mental illness. And a lot of this generation of young ones don't want to do that anymore. They want to find out who they are, what their purpose is, and they don't have anyone to help them with that. Mama crazy, daddy crazy, brother and sister crazy. Because brothers were not brothers to their brothers. Sisters were not sisters to their sisters. Mama did not know how to be mama, and neither did daddy. So each generation of black children literally raised themselves based on what they saw. Tell me that does not cause a disturbance in your mental state. And we haven't even gotten to the spiritual yet, but the book says we war not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, spiritual wickedness in high places. I thank you all for tuning in. This is Jamil Salib Zamir out of Manning, South Carolina, part 1 of mental illness in the black community. And part 1 was about identity disturbance. And we are suffering a disturbance. We are suffering an earthquake in our minds. And so the earth is shaking around South Carolina. We had almost 13 earthquakes in South Carolina last month. Think about that. Jamil Salib Zamir, Manning, South Carolina. Thank you all for tuning in. I will see you all, God willing, tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you so very much for tuning in to this month installment of the 19 Report. I am your host, Brother Johnny. I walked a thin line between right and wrong, took my fears to God, then I wrote this song. The spirit kept calling, so I answered the phone, and then I manned up and got some backbone. My mind resonates at a much higher tone, solid foundation, empire zone. 3 mountains, I'm in one, right to left counted, 9 and then 1, left to right switch it, 1 and then 9, west to east, south to north, a thin line. I know Christ exists, cause his mercy allows me a chance to stand 3 on a square. Yeah, we in there. This is Brother Johnny of Groove 19 Promotions.